Hello everyone, and here we are for a really fun little workshop where I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful frosted paper plum peonies. And believe it or not, these are so easy to make, especially if you have a cutting machine. So we'll go over all of that. But before we start, I just wanted to mention that we have Emily over here on the microphone, and she's going to be taking any of your comments. So Emily, can you tell them what to do there?
Yes, hello everybody. We're so happy to have you here today. If you are watching from our website, go ahead and click the comment or sign into chat button at the bottom, and that will take you over to YouTube. Once you're signed in, you can join in the discussion, ask any questions as we work, and I will read them aloud and we will get those answered for you.
And if you are watching a replay rather than the live, go ahead and put any questions in the comments under this video, and I'll pop back in and answer those for you as well. So, all right, here we go. Frosted paper. Frosted paper is one of my favorite papers to make paper flowers with. It's one of the original papers that I started using before we moved over to crepe paper. And so there's a little bit of love that I have for this paper in my heart. And we have our own line. Of course, you can use any of the frosted paper that you have, or if you really want to make this from cardstock, that is okay too. So this flower is actually a revamp from one of the first paper flowers that I made for our site about 13 years ago. And I looked at it, I'm like, you know what, we know how to do it better. Let's give it a little bit of an upgrade. But the thing I loved about that particular flower is that it was such a beautiful, deep, rich plum. And part of the way that I had created this look was printing the paper, sending it through a printer and adding a watercolor wash. So to start out, we are using, today I'm using the frosted paper, and this is the berry pack. And honestly, you could use any of these colors. It really doesn't matter which color. Pick one or mix them up. I think it would be really quite beautiful to mix them up. I'm using the citrus, where I'm just using the center for the yellow, with the yellow here. You can see this color right there. And then I am using one of the greens from the succulent pack. And again, it really doesn't matter which green. We're adding some watercolor wash over the top, so you can use whatever you'd like. And again, if you're using a different type of paper, just pick what paper makes you happy. The beautiful thing about this paper is it does have this frosted gloss to it. I'll show you what the original looks like. So this is before I sent it through the paper, and we have a couple printers here, but I went ahead and sent it through our laser printer, which is only 8.5 by 11. I couldn't do a 12 by 12. So I cut it down first and I printed on both sides, and I just love the variation and just the unevenness of this watercolor wash. And you can see what a difference it makes in color, and that's how I'm getting that really beautiful, rich plum. Did the same thing with the green. So you can find both of these color washes over on our website. You can download those and just run it through either your laser or your inkjet printer. It should work on pretty much any paper, but I would go for a mid-tone to a darker paper for those. All right, so that's how we get the watercolor onto the paper. So the rest of the materials that I'm using, I have these thick stem wires. These are paper covered, and we also sell these over in our shop along with the paper. And then I have an 18 gauge wire that I'll use for the leaves. So each of your peonies needs one stem, and you can, I would say, one stem of wire for the leaves. All right, we're going to be using the glue here. Are we using it? Hold on one sec. Oh yes, we're using this for the leaves, that's right. So we're going to be using this as well as a hot glue gun. I generally like to use hot glue with the frosted paper. It dries faster, it cools faster, so you don't have to be waiting quite so long. So I really liked, having that one on hand, and the fine point is a beautiful version of the hot glue gun. As far as cutting it out, I did cut everything out on a cutting machine, but if you want to, you could cut these out by hand. They're very, I would say, uneven. The shapes are irregular, they're not perfect, so you could just cut them out by hand and it will be beautiful.
Quick question.
Yes.
If people don't have a white glue on hand, could they make the leaves with the hot glue? Or?
Yes, they can make and I'll show you how to do that. It gets a little bulky, that's the only reason, and I just wanted it as an option. If you make it with the white glue, there's a trick to that too. We'll go over it. All right, I will be using a curling tool, and I'll need wire cutters, of course. And then I have some stem tape here that you can use to wrap the stems, which is, I'll be honest, is not really my favorite anymore. I really do prefer using the extra fine crepe paper and then using the glue, which also we need this glue for the stem tape. Or I'm sorry, for the crepe paper, not the stem tape.
You can use whichever one you prefer. If you have it on hand, use the stem wrap, but if you have some extra crepe paper,
it's a great, we just keep little bins of the stuff handy so that we can grab some when we need it. And here, another option is you don't even have to cover the stems if you don't want to. This just kind of finishes it, but it's not totally necessary. Okay.
They are already green.
They are. That's why we like the paper covered as well. All right, so I'm going to show you. I did, like I said, I cut these out on my Cricut. And I just have the cutouts here just to show you. I set it up so that you can get 2 petals or 2 petal sets per page, and it will take 3 of these for 1 peony. If you're cutting it on 12 by 12, you can probably do 2 sheets. And then here's my leaves, so you can kind of see that. And then I wanted to mention, if any of you have cut out prior to this video, the centers, the stamen, I apologize. I have no idea what happened. There was a little gremlin in the software, and somehow it got bent and skewed. And if you cut that one out, it's fine. You can still use it. But it took me a little while to figure it out, but I did repair it and put it back up. And this is the final template for the centers. And this is the reason why I do love using the Cricut or a cutting machine. But you can, you can just do a fringe. You don't have to have all this detail. But look how beautiful this is, and you can get 2 strips with 1. It took me a minute to design this because I had them kind of coming in together, but each side needed to look the same. So make sure you put in the comments where you're watching from, and if this is the first time you've tried to make a paper flower, or if you're a pro at this sort of thing.
Yeah, this is a great one for new flower makers.
It is.
We love these ones where all the petals are kind of clustered together. But lots of people have been saying where they're from. We have Ontario, New Jersey, Utah, Virginia, Newfoundland, Missouri, and somebody from Denmark.
Oh, I love this. Yeah.
More Missouri, California, Maryland, New York, Nevada. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, welcome. And, if you do make these flowers and you choose a different type of paper, I would love to see how they turned out. So be sure and go into our community page and add photos of what you make. We'd love to see that. Okay, I'm going to start with the centers here. And I will use my curling tool and very gently just add a bit of shape to these stamen. And I'm not pulling because I don't want to rip the paper. So it's just this very gentle pull. I'm not rolling it through like I do some. This one I'm just kind of dragging very, very lightly. I would start lighter and move it up to heavier so that you can get a sense for it. Then I'm going to take my hot glue and just add some glue right at the end of the strip and start to roll this on to my stem. I do think this is absolutely a perfect flower for a beginner because it's stunning. It has a lot of impact, and once you have it cut out, it is so easy. So you go ahead and just roll that on. You can go, smaller pieces if you'd like. Just make sure that see, my glue is too cool there, so I went too far. You have to work fast if you put your glue on in a long strip. So you can see how that's looking. And I wanted to check, I have to admit, I made these flowers over a month ago, so I couldn't remember how many centers. Okay, so only 1. So this will make 4 flowers. You don't need to cut 1 for each. This will actually do 4 flowers. If you want to have this a bigger stamen bunch in the middle, go ahead and add another one. That would also be very pretty. And that's ready to go for the flower. I'm going to set that aside. The next thing I'm going to do, since I will be using the white glue, is set up my leaves because they'll need a bit of time to dry. And if you did cut them out with the cutting machine, there's a little tiny hole right at the base. And what we're going to do is slide that wire right through the hole. And I'm going to fold over that last end of the strip. You can see that here. Can you see that? There we go. And make sure my wire doesn't slide through much further than that. Now, if you are using hot glue, you just put hot glue on and sandwich it. But I feel like it made it a bit more bulky, so I am going to use this white glue, which is the Bearly Art Glue. And the Bearly Art Glue we have found works so well because once it dries, it is solid, you know, even on paper. Now I'm just going to press it down, get it as flat as possible, but it does need a bit of time to dry. So try to get that down really well. Let's see here. I said 1 wire per leaf stem, but I'm actually going to use 1.5. So I'll cut that wire in half and then do the same thing with my middle leaf. Actually, I'll do this one. So we have 2 smaller leaves and then 1 larger one. Also, write in the comments if you are doing a make-along or if you're just watching and getting ready to make these a little bit later.
I could definitely see that working with hot glue would just be a little bulkier. I found with hot glue, running that tip, the hot tip along anything will kind of flatten it out.
That's a good idea. I'm going to go ahead and show you the last one with the hot glue just so you can see the difference. Both, you know, it's really your preference. It's whatever you prefer. Since this is hot glue, I think I want to add a bit to the back just so the wire has something on this side, and then I'll add a quick little line on top of the wire and quickly flip it over. And that works too. That I think is a good solution. The wires and the small glue globs are just something you might need to deal with because you're working really quickly. So there's 2 different options for you. Okay, I'll set those aside. Now, here we are, already on the petals. I'm done with this glue for a minute, so I'll put the lid back on. So the petals, each of the petal sets are different. And you can kind of line them up and see. We have, these 2 are a similar size, but this one's thicker, and then it gets a little smaller, similar size, thicker, a bit thinner, similar size, thicker and thinner. And you want to have them in order. This is important. The other thing, another reason why I have my scissors here, if you're using this thick stem wire, the holes aren't really big enough to go through the base. So what I'll do, if you're using just you know, something like an 18 gauge wire, you don't need to do this because it will easily slide through. What I'll go ahead and do is just make little slits to open this up. And I prefer doing this rather than having a larger hole. I just think it works better. So I'm just going to clip 4 little slits. That's kind of one of the joys of working inside out with these thick stem wires when you need to slide something on. I like to do this before I shape the petals, just because it's done and it's ready to go. All right, now we're taking our curling tool and we're going to start with the smallest petal set. I'll go ahead and move these so you can see what I'm doing. Put it on the green background here. And what I like to do is go around each petal, actually I'm going to rotate it. So I am curling, and this is where I'm pushing it through with my thumb. So I'm pushing it through, and I'm actually giving it quite a bit of force to get a nice rounded curl. Notice that I'm doing kind of an angled edge, so the curling tool's not lined up to the edge and it's not on the top, it's at an angle. And this is curling just the edge over that direction. Then I'll flip it over and go the other way. So I'm kind of cupping these. I'm cupping them into themselves. And they're, you know, cupping downward. Then I'll take the curling tool and just lightly give it a little bit of a slide across the base, which will then make the paper curl downward, which will eventually be upward. And I love having it very random. I don't want things to be even. This flower is beautifully messy, and that's the look you're going to want to go for. So I'll go ahead and do that to all of the petals. Everything's going to be curling in pretty much the same direction. Okay, you can see how I'm working on each petal. You could do that as well, rather than going around, and then the other side you can just work each petal. And if you want to give it a bit of a curl on the tip, you can do that as well. But you want a lot of curl just on the edge and around the top of those petals. I'm not moving down all the way to, you know, to the base of the petal for this. I'm just really working on the edges. Does that make sense, Emily?
Yes. And it looks like we have a couple people making along, but some people just watching. Love that people watch this during work.
Yeah.
It's a great just background hangout and craft.
Yes. Yeah. This is why, I mean, I think when I first started making paper flowers, Emily, you remember this, I started with this flat paper. I actually worked at Xerox. That's how this all started. And I loved how the paper would shape with the curling tool. And at that point, I would just use the edge of my scissors because I didn't have this fun tool that we have now. Because you can get a lot of life and shape from a flat piece of paper.
Especially when you're working it. Really like putting in some.
And I'm holding the base right here so I don't tear the petal off. And I'm also kind of using my thumb to roll it through as well as pull. So it's just this combination. And I think be patient with yourself if you're just learning how to do this. We use this technique with crepe paper as well. I've been doing this for a very long time. I'll show you with the scissor method too, in case some of you may not have a curling tool. You could use a credit card. I don't prefer the credit card. If I don't have a curling tool, I'd use the scissors because it's easier to hold in my hand. Okay, there's 3. I'll show you the scissor method. I would probably use a longer pair of scissors, but you can. It's just a nice, easy kind of pointed edge there. You just kind of use it. I know there's some people who roll their paper around around a stick or something, and that's not my preference, but you may like that one too. You can see though how the scissors, since it's sharper, I get a little edge. It's giving me just a little tiny bit of an edge, but that gives you the idea that you can use scissors as well. And see on these, because they're bigger petals, I'm going ahead and just curling all the way around the petal. So once you get to the larger ones that have the thicker petals,
my favorite thing about this flower is all of those little ruffly edges.
Yeah, it's very random. Everything's very random and very mismatched, which is fun.
No one side is the same, just like in nature.
Yeah. Another reason I like this frosted paper rather than the cardstock is the way that the flowers, they kind of move. They have this sort of, I don't know, light airiness to them.
It's much lighter weight.
Yeah. where, you know, if you do a cardstock, that's great. That's beautiful as well, but it will be a lot stiffer. So.
And if people don't have this curling tool at home, do you have any recommendations for alternatives?
Yes. Scissors.
Scissors.
Which I just showed.
Oh, okay. Great.
You could do the scissors. You can use a credit card if you want to.
I think that round edge really is where you.
It does. I mean, we've been doing this for so long that we got to design our own curling tool, and it fits really beautifully in the hand. But if you don't have it, also if you have a Cricut cutting machine, you can use their scraper tool that has a similar size as this. You can use that. I think Silhouette has a bigger scraper tool that you could use. But you can see on these larger petals, again, I'm going all the way around because you want to have as much movement and shape to this flat paper as possible. I think that's what really brings this type of paper flower to life, is adding the shape. Just really getting in there and working it. When you're done, it looks like a little sculpture. All right, one more.
Beautiful.
Now it's getting kind of big and harder to hold in my hand.
We hope you're enjoying this ASMR.
I know. Do you want to sing, Emily?
No.
I'm kidding. It's very calming to do this. You know, you just kind of go into the zone.
I love a nice repetitive motion,
Uh-huh.
especially when making something beautiful.
There we go. Just give it a little curl. And when I do this action, I'm moving my curling tool from about the base to, I would say, half to 2/3. I don't go all the way to the end. So by the time I get to where it's already curled, I release. Otherwise, I'll uncurl what I've already put in there, and I don't want to do that. Okay, there they are. We are ready to put these on.
This is going to go so fast.
It is really fast. So here we are. Make sure that my little, just slide them up, and then I'll add just a touch of glue right on the base of my center stamen because I don't want the glue to show. Just pop it right up there.
And we're quick.
Yes, work quick. Once you put that hot glue on, you want to go fast. Otherwise, it will cool. Now, the only trick to the rest of this is when you pull your petals up, make sure you don't overlap your petals. You want to have them offset. I don't like to offset them perfectly in between each other. I like them slightly off. I think it just looks more natural.
Mm-hmm. So you don't want those petals right on top of each other.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Put them in the gaps, and if they're not in the center, that's even better.
Yes. Just slightly off. And when you're working with the hot glue, you have to move fast, but yet kind of keep an eye on what you're doing there. Okay, there we go.
Since it's this specific hot glue gun is the hot one.
It is.
You have a little bit more time. So you make the contact, shift it around.
You do have a little bit more time.
And then it's solid. High temp, that's what it's called.
High temp. I mean, this is so fun. I think this could be a great step that you could do with your children. You know, get them involved with crafting some of these pretty flowers. I think they would enjoy.
Or if you have any older folks in your life that maybe don't have the confidence to step straight into crepe paper flower or something that requires a little bit more dexterity, this is a really great option.
It is, and I think, you know, with any flower, the most complicated part is getting it cut out. And since this is so easy to cut out on the cutting machine or even by hand, this is very fast. All right, my last piece, which
look at that, you're done already.
No, I'm not quite done. I'm missing a piece, but I know it's here somewhere. So hold on one second while I find it. I just had a lot of paper flying around.
What piece are you missing?
The sepal. I know it's here because I saw it earlier. it looks like this shape right here. And if I can't find it.
Is it under your mat or in the pile of green?
No, it's not. But you know what I'm going to do?
Oh, it's right there. It's on the bottom.
Oh.
It's on the bottom of that.
Oh, it got stuck to the mat. All right, here we go. We found it. I was going to cut one by hand. Again, this is very uneven shape. It's not anything fancy. You could just cut something out really quickly by hand. And for this one, I'll go ahead and do the same thing. I don't know why I'm doing this direction first. We want to go around first, just like we did our petals. Give it some shape, give it some curve. This is the beauty of being on a live because everything's real.
I think everybody can understand losing a little piece of your puzzle as you make it, especially when you have all your supplies sitting right there.
Yeah, it's slightly messy. This one too, I forgot to do this, but go ahead and open this up just a bit. Whoops. I would do that before I curl it, but I just forgot. Okay. And then with the curl going the same direction as the petals, I'll go ahead and slide that up. Add just a bit of glue to the back and then pop that on. So it looks like this. Just a nice way to finish it. And we'll cover up that join with our crepe paper or our floral tape when we're done.
And
Okay.
if you wanted that flower to be a little more closed.
Yes, so one of the things, so this one's a bit more open and this is a bit more closed, and I love having variety. I don't like all my flowers to look the same. But if you wanted to open this up, the only thing you would need to do is just kind of, I would prefer things being more closed, and then you can open them. You can kind of pull some of the petals back and give it more of a full bloom feel. It's harder to close them up, or although, yeah, I think it's easier to open them. So you could do that, just very gently. All right, for our leaves, we have 3 parts to the leaf, and the way that I like to do this is go ahead and lay them on top of each other like this. You can use a lighter weight wire if you want to. You could use the 24 gauge if you would prefer for this.
Maybe just whatever you have on hand.
Whatever you have on hand is fine. And this is the technique that we use for our crepe paper flowers, where we'll add the white glue onto the stem, and then this is the strip of crepe paper. You can see we've cut it against the grain so that it makes kind of this floral tape stretch.
And that is juniper, correct?
It is juniper, yes.
Juniper colored crepe paper, Michelle, for you asking, to cover the stem. And that's usually our go-to.
Yeah, sometimes we'll use cypress, depending.
And cypress has a little bit more of a yellow ring to
tint.
it.
Mm-hmm.
This one perfectly
this one matches the
yeah.
leaves really well. So, and for this, I only need to move this down the stem about 3 to 4 inches because we'll be adding this to our big stem. I like to attach them first before I start to shape them, but you can go ahead and move some of the wires out at this point, and then get your curling tool, and we'll start adding some shape to these leaves.
And notice how she's going back and forth.
Oh,
you tore one.
Just
That's
lost
okay.
it. Okay, I think that one
It's
was
natural.
that one was the white glue, so it needed to dry just a bit more, but that's okay. We'll get it back together. I'll just use some hot glue.
Accidents happen.
And usually if it's paper, it's easy to fix. Okay, so there's my leaf. You can see all the shape that's going on. I am going to bend it out a bit because we're going to attach it to the stem. So I'll do the same thing here with the crepe paper, adding it to the stem. If you're using floral tape, you would do the same as I'm doing, but just, use the floral tape by heating it with your fingers and wrapping it. Yes.
So Ian is wondering, if you're cutting the leaves by hand, how would you add in the little hole, or would you do anything differently?
I would take some needle nose
tweezers,
or you could just kind of do a snip.
Or
like
an awl could work if you had
an awl could
on
work.
hand.
Yeah.
A really small pair of scissors, just get just a teeny tiny hole.
Yeah, and you know, you could, here, let me just show you on a piece of paper. Might as well, I have some paper here. So if I were cutting a leaf, we'll pretend this is the leaf. It's not, but we'll pretend. And I have that little shape there. What I might do is take my scissors and maybe on a softer surface and just kind of poke it to get it going. And then you can slide your scissors in and just make it a bigger hole. So that might be an option. I love the awl idea. I love, you know, you can use a needle, anything like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and wrap the stem. And again, you don't have to because it looks pretty. The paper's there, but it's just something we like to do. And as you can see, as I'm wrapping, I'm stretching the crepe paper as I go. You can also pre-stretch it if that helps. And I'm wrapping and making it as smooth as possible. Just adding a bit of glue. And you know, just adding the glue to the stem is plenty. And the thing that I do love about the crepe paper instead of the floral tape, if the floral tape gets warm or gets old, it starts to fall off, which isn't quite as pretty. Now I'm adding in my stem here of leaves, and we're just going to attach them. And with the crepe and this glue, it is really solid once it dries. It's also very soft paper. Any last questions?
Yeah, let us know if you have any final questions. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so we'll hang tight. But I think this flower is just so beautiful. I love the color, and you could probably experiment with different types of paper as well.
Yeah, different types of paper and different watercolor washes if you want a different color. It's just a really, I don't know, easy, fun way. I thought about trying to add color with markers or pan pastels, but I just thought this was easy and fun.
I wonder if you could use like a really lightweight watercolor paper and paint it yourself.
You might be able to do that, sure.
Probably stick to something really lightweight though.
Yeah. All right, there's the final flower. You can see I bent the head in one direction. It just looks prettier that way. And we can add that to the rest of our flowers. I think I need one more and I can make a full arrangement with these because I like to use odd numbers. So I'll hold tight for 1 second to see if there's any last minute questions for anybody.
I think we're good.
Okay. And then I did want to say this for all of you who are watching today. I'm going to grab something. We're doing a Crafternoon. Anna's going to join me next Friday, and we're going to be doing Crafternoon, making this little branch of cherry blossoms, and this is made out of crepe paper. And I will tell you, this you can make with any crepe paper. This is heavy crepe paper, but if you have just paper streamers on hand or something you want to use up, this is the perfect flower for that. And we're going to have a lot of fun doing this. So go make sure that you put that on your calendar and come back next week for when we're making this flower. All right, we'll see you next time.